Scott. Good morning, Scott. Welcome to the David Carrier Show.
Good morning, Mr. Carrier. You're too kind you're too kind to put me on ahead of your great story that you're getting ready to give the public.
Dude, I understand the reality. It's only you and me here anyway.
Oh yeah, okay, fair enough. A couple quick questions. The first question, just general curiosity question.
Yeah, sure.
I've got family both in Kentucky and Michigan, and sometimes I get the rules confused. But in Michigan, can a trustor, person who funds an irrevocable trust, can they be the trustee?
Sure.
Can they control how the assets are done in Michigan?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, good. So then that was just curious question.
Here's the thing. Let me just clarify.
Okay.
There are certain kinds of trusts, irrevocable. See, the problem with the label irrevocable trust is it is such a broad category that there are irrevocable trusts where you cannot, like the statutory asset protection trust, well, you can't be the trustee of that. Okay. There are some other tax planning trusts where you can't be the trustee, where the grantor is, or trustor is not the trustee. But if you say, as a general principle, is it possible for the grantor to be the trustee of an irrevocable trust? Well, the answer is yes, and that's true everywhere in Kentucky, anywhere. The question is, what was it you were trying to do with the trust? What rules are you operating under? Okay, that's the question that you have to ask yourself. That's the real question. Okay, just to say.
Okay.
So it's not a blanket, absolutely or never. It's depends on the trust.
Right. Okay. No, fair enough from that standpoint. And then this all falls under the general topic of Medicaid.
Yeah, sure.
So we were going to get the 5-year look back
Right.
clock ticking if we wanted to put assets into a trust, but yet, for the benefit of others, not myself, could I put the assets in there, get the 5-year clock ticking, but yet still control on how the assets are dispersed to the benefit of others?
Yeah. In fact, look, are we talking, Scott? Are we talking about your own assets, things that you want to protect for the long-term care, for the Medicaid?
It's actually the previous generation ahead of me, the people that are closer to the needing that rather than myself. Although I should start thinking about it myself. I know. But,
yeah. Well, so mom or dad?
Parents.
Yeah, mom or dad.
Yeah.
Right. And we're thinking of doing the 5-year thing for them. Do mom and dad give up control of their assets? The answer is absolutely not. They do not give up practical control, because here's the deal. Let's say there's $1 in that irrevocable trust. All right. And now, legally, technically, everything else, mom, who set up the trust, cannot give the $1 to mom. Okay. Mom can't give the $1 to herself. Are you with me on that? That's what the trust says. This is what triggers the 5-year look back. All right. But mom may, if she chooses, give it to Scott. All right. Scott happens to know that mom needs a jug of milk. Well, I should make it more like $5, right? Anyway, Scott knows that mom needs a jug of milk, and he says, "Oh, look, mom gave me $5. I think I'll go to the grocery store and buy some milk for mom." Well, you can do that. You do that all day long. You do whatever you want with the money that you receive from the trust. And if you disappoint mom by not buying enough milk for her, she also retains the right to disinherit you.
Right.
See where this is going? All right. So as a practical matter, and mom can change beneficiaries, right? She can make your sister Sue. You remember your sister Sue. She can make your sister Sue the beneficiary if she chooses to. Okay. So she can disinherit you and leave it to Sue. Or she could give the money to Sue in hopes that Sue will go to the grocery store and favor mom with a jug of milk. So as a practical matter, you have control. One other thing, which I do not recommend, but in other states, Massachusetts, New York are the two that spring to mind, mom set up this trust, the Medicaid Divestment Trust, right? And used it, mom and dad did. In both cases, I think it was a married couple. Anyway, they used it like a piggy bank. They did not obey the terms of the trust. They didn't give it to Scott to go get the milk. They went and got the milk themselves. They gave the money to money in, money out, all over the place. Definitely violated the trust. And then they applied I think it's Mass Health in Massachusetts, and New York has another name for it, but it is Medicaid. It's the same thing. And in both cases, the agency denied benefits, the lower court denied benefits, the Court of Appeals denied benefits. And it finally got to the Supreme Court, which said, you guys are looking at this wrong. You're saying that there was no trust. It didn't trigger the 5-year look back. And the Supreme Court, Supreme Court of Massachusetts, said, oh no, mom and dad are terrible trustees. They're very bad trustees. Okay. But they still had a
Right.
trust and it still triggered the 5-year look back. They were just bad about it. New York did the same thing, and there are a number of other states that have taken that line as well. So I'm not advising mom and dad to use it like a piggy bank. Observe the formalities, follow the rules, right? Then Scott doesn't have a headache trying to go to the Supreme Court of Kentucky or Michigan or something with the stupid thing, and instead it gets handled, right? I mean, it's easy. But that's what, in fact, in Michigan, when because we've had people who've done that, or the kids did it for them. They took the stuff out of the trust and put it in mom's checking account, that kind of thing. The way the agency deals with that is, yeah, you had a trust, it triggered the look back period, but you cured the divestment. So the money that you took out isn't protected, but the rest of the money still is. That's been my experience over the last, I think the first time we had that happen was probably 10, 15 years ago. And every once in a while it does happen, because people aren't as, they're not as meticulous about their bookkeeping as they might be, and they make a mistake and they do this and that. And then it's treated as a cure. But there's been no attempt in Michigan to deny that there was a trust. I don't know Kentucky, but.
Okay.
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 So,
That's good. That's good.
yeah. So the best bet is be careful with what you do. As a practical matter, you're in control. In fact, for tax purposes, right? The federal government, the IRS, says that these trusts are not trusts at all. Well, they don't say that. They say they're disregarded entities. They don't care that you set one of these up because it has no effect on taxes because you didn't give up enough control. You gave up some control, enough to qualify for Medicaid, but you didn't give up enough control to have any effect for tax purposes. Okay. So the idea that you've done this irrevocable trust and yet you still have control, yeah, nothing new about that. Okay. But you have to do it correctly.
I do. Right. I do have a general Medicaid question. I know we're running short of time here. It's a practical question, and I just was curious.
Yeah.
So the question is this: for a single person, you've got the asset limit of $2,000,
right?
And then, of course, you got the income limit, to qualify. And so, in this particular case, they're living in their home. Of course, their property taxes, their home insurance, and car insurance is like, say, $3,000 a year for those 3 annual bills.
Right.
And how do you take and save up? Because you can't just, if they're kind of that poor and that destitute, you're not going to have a $3,000 account where you can just write a check. But how do you save up for
Scott, that music means I got to get out, but I'll come right back. If you hang around through the news, we'll come right back to you. Okay. And if you can't, I'll answer the question anyway. All right?